ago, many of you have never heard of Zoom, and the concept of having a team meeting online just didn't seem possible. Now we meet many times a day without ever leaving our desk. And I'm willing to bet that you have discovered some things that work well with virtual meetings and some things that backfire. This week's top 10 list shares the best tips to ensure your online meetings are successful. Now, I realize that many people are already back to the office or going back to the office sooner rather than later, but I think that online meetings are here to stay for some of our meetings. Yeah, I think we'll still meet in the same space from time to time, but I also believe that we will continue with some online meetings. So let's make them a good use of time. Our first tip comes from Elizabeth Faber from Fort McMurray, Alberta. Elizabeth has incorporated a tip into her meetings, which was very popular when she shared it online. She has started displaying a countdown timer when her team pauses for breaks in their meetings. Now, this has helped with accountability as well as easing people's anxieties, knowing that they had enough time to grab a cup of coffee or whatever they needed before the meeting started again. Janet Stewart from Ottawa, Ontario shared our second tip about cameras. If possible, and we all know that sometimes it isn't possible, have attendees turn their cameras on. If we were all gathered in a boardroom together for this meeting, we would be able to see each other. So why shouldn't we see each other if we're meeting online? If you've ever had to present to a department, do a department update or a team meeting and try to get them engaged when you can't see anyone, you realize how very painfully difficult this is. It feels like no one is engaged, no one's listening, or no one's participating. Meetings have many purposes, but connecting as a team is one of them. So connecting with our cameras on helps with that. Number 3 is from Preeti Sandeep from Toronto, Ontario. Preeti reminds us to treat your meeting like an in-person meeting in terms of preparation work. She also recommends that you still include an initial icebreaker or chit chat at the beginning, and it makes it feel like that pre-meeting water cooler coffee chat. Number 4 is a simple yet very effective tip from Hélène Lafrance from Ottawa, Ontario. We've all been to online meetings where there's way too many people speaking at the same time, and then you can't hear anyone, which is kind of what happened when we're all in the same room as well. And Hélène's tip is to use the raise hands feature to raise your hand so that the moderator can call on you, or if you don't have the raise hand features, just wave so that the moderator sees that you want to say something. This keeps the conversation flowing much easier. Deb Beckers from Toronto, Ontario shared that since many of us like to use timed agendas, she likes to give them a 2-minute warning at the end of their time. Now, we could hold up a sign or some other quiet type of warning in an in-person meeting, but online, we don't necessarily know they're going to see that sign that says 2 minutes left. So what Deb does is she uses just a little bell, ding. They hear it and it doesn't interrupt them. If we say 2 minutes, it interrupts the flow of their thought and the meeting. So a little ding in the background is a great idea. Number 6 is from Melissa Ellingham from New York, New York. Melissa reminds us to get familiar with your platform before you're running a meeting, and most importantly, be ready to use your host controls to mute or unmute as needed. Now, when I'm running meetings, I warn people that I will mute them automatically if there's background noise, such as dogs barking or a fire truck or something that's distracting. And I always tell them to make sure that they look to see that they're not muted before they start speaking. But the master mute button is a good button to know how to work. Linda Luca from Akron, Ohio has a good rule in her office. They do not allow any meetings during the noon hour unless lunch is provided. So if a meeting was scheduled in the office during the lunch hour, the assumption would be that lunch would be provided, right? So unless someone is willing to pay for Grubhub for everyone to deliver the food, they have a rule about lunchtime meetings. Balance is hard when we're working from home. So having rules like this make it a little bit easier. Number 8 is from Houston, Texas, and Laura Thewald. She advises not to make it hard. Grant all the tools to the participants, the Outlook plugin, the reactions, the chat. Laura tells a story of how her church was Zoom bombed early in the pandemic, and they reacted by making all their meetings harder to access and giving participants fewer controls about chats and sharing screens in order to not get Zoom bombed. I was delivering a workshop with a company that used Team, but I had no control because I was not part of the in-house team. So I had to deliver a workshop saying, please change the slide. And because I had to do that, it just was really frustrating, made for a lousy experience for everyone. So make it easy for your team to meet. Give them controls. They're adults. Don't make it complicated. And the security feature on all of our platforms is so much better than it was 16 months ago. Brenda Hanau from Happy Valley, Oregon gives us number 9, which is one we all need to learn. Brenda advises us to give grace and exercise patience. Many of us are super users of whatever platform we're using, and we can easily forget that not everyone spends a lot of time with this technology. And so the comfort and knowledge levels are broad right across the board. So grant patience, and encouraging word goes a long way to further increase comfort and get rid of any frustration or annoyance at all. And number 10 is from me. My advice is to schedule your meetings for 50 minutes instead of the standard 1-hour block, or 20 minutes instead of the 30-minute block. When we have meetings back to back, there is no time for bathroom breaks, there's no time for meetings to run a little bit over time, or even a chance to look at your email between meetings to find the next link. So if we start scheduling our meetings for 45 or 50 minutes, it leaves in a little bit of buffer time and hopefully a few minutes at the top of the hour so that we can grab a cup of coffee or get rid of a cup of coffee before the next meeting starts. We could have listed dozens of more tips to make your meetings better, but I'm hoping these 10 get you on the right track to running your virtual meetings just a little bit better. Good luck.